Greetings, friends. This is Chris Batts, your host of the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. In today's episode, I spoke with a four-time Fortune 500 General Counsel and a multiplier of corporate leaders. He's passionate about leadership and seeing people succeed. Listen to the whole episode. It's solid gold. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast and leave a review on iTunes. We interview corporate defense law firm leaders, partners, general counsel, and legal consultants. You're listening to episode 47 of the Law Firm Leadership Podcast.
Broadcasting from Kansas City, this is the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. In each episode, you'll receive actionable ideas and hear personal leadership stories of both men and women serving as leaders and executives in the legal industry. Enjoy a front row seat as Chris Batts speaks with general counsel, legal consultants, and law firm leaders and law partners at the top corporate defense law firms from around the United States.
Welcome to the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Batts with the Lion Group. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Mark Roellig, Senior Client Advisor of Perkins Coie. As Senior Client Advisor with Perkins Coie's Client Advantage team, Mark leverages his wide-ranging experience to help his general counsel clients innovate, solve problems, understand trends in legal services, and bring value to the law firm-client relationship. Over his career, Mark held C-suite roles at Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company, Fisher Scientific International, Storage Technology Corp., and U.S. West, Inc., overseeing critical functions including marketing, corporate strategy, and executive compensation and benefits. He also served as MassMutual's Chief Technology Officer for 2 years. Widely known for his leadership in general counsel space, Mark writes a monthly column for the Association of Corporate Counsel. He was named among America's 50 outstanding general counsels by the National Law Journal and Legal Times, and was recognized by Ethisphere as one of 75 attorneys worldwide who matter. Mark received his law degree from the George Washington University School of Law and his MBA from the University of Washington. Welcome, Mark, to the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I look forward to our conversation.
Mark, you came highly recommended by General Counsel, so thank you for your time today. Please share with my listeners what you are doing for Perkins Coie. I thought it was a clever way for the law firm to deliver value to their clients.
Sure, happy to do that. Actually retired from MassMutual in April of 2019. At MassMutual, we have mandatory retirement at age 65. I was age 64, and it was a logical time to move on. So I stepped back and thought, what would I really like to do next? Well, how would I like to spend my time? What I really enjoy doing is helping other lawyers, other in-house counsel be successful. And so what I did is I reached out to several law firms to see if they would have an interest where I could work with them, partner with them in a way where I could help general counsels and their leadership team really think about not legal issues, but sort of how to deal with the business of practicing in-house law, and also to deal with leadership issues. And so when I approached several firms, the thought that I had is I would only do it if I would be offered up to clients free. So there'd be no charge to clients or potential clients. And second of all, that I would not have to bill hours. Third, that I would not get any client credit or be compensated for helping get work for Perkins Coie, because what I wanted to be is really helping the clients as compared to trying to be generating business. So that was the thinking. I didn't want to do it total full time, wanted flexibility in my hours and location. And Perkins Coie was interested in doing that, and so off we went.
Mark, thank you. Let's dive into your history as general counsel, starting with your most recent role at MassMutual.
I'll go backwards. At MassMutual, actually, for the last 2 years, I was the Chief Technology Officer. I had been the General Counsel there for 11 years. And frankly, my belief is that probably 5 years in a leadership or an executive role is about enough. I had great successors in place. And so I told my boss at the time that, frankly, it's time for me to retire. And that probably would have been at about age 62. And he asked me to head up the technology group at MassMutual. And I took that role. So for 2 years, I was the Chief Technology Officer at MassMutual. Prior to that, I was the General Counsel at MassMutual, but I picked up more responsibilities than just law. So I had the legal group. I had the corporate secretary, I had compliance, I had internal audit, government relations, the real estate, the facilities, the aircraft. And so really I had most of the administrative functions at MassMutual. Prior to that, I was general counsel and secretary of Fisher Scientific in Hampton, New Hampshire. Was there for a very short period of time, but there again, I had the legal function and the corporate secretary function and compliance functions. Prior to that, I was general counsel at Storage Tech. There again, general counsel and corporate secretary, together with government relation activities. Before that, I was at US West, where I, again, general counsel, corporate secretary. And in addition, I picked up basically all the administrative functions, but for the CFO function. And I had, for example, human resources reported into me. So basically had all of those. So I would say from my career from US West on, my skill set may not necessarily be being a strong or good technical lawyer, but I do know how to, I think, identify and lead high-performing administrative teams.
Mark, is it safe to say that you were selected for your leadership strengths more so than over your legal acumen initially in your career?
Actually, it's not safe to say. Frankly, I started out as a litigator, a trial lawyer, and tried a lot of regulatory cases. Got a master's of business administration from the University of Washington, so understood business, and did a lot of litigation for US West in the various regulatory jurisdictions in which they worked. And I was picked by the General Counsel of US West at that time to head up all of the litigation for US West. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't know much about leadership. I didn't know much about leading a team. Charlie Russ was a great mentor, and that's why I believe and truly believe that leadership is not necessarily innate. And can be learned and can be developed and can be improved. And that's one of the reasons I like my role with Perkins Coie, because I believe that I can give people pointers on how they can be better leaders and really put together teams that will get significant positive results for their corporations.
Mark, that has to encourage and inspire my listeners that you weren't an instant leader, that leadership was something learned. Would you share, how does one learn and develop leadership skills?
One way is I'd say the most important skill you have to have is you have to have self-realization. You need to accept input, even if you don't agree with the input, because how you are being perceived is how other people see you, even if you disagree with that perception. And you've then got to basically react to it and change and continue to improve. To me, though, from a leadership perspective, whether it's law or whether it's human resources, the four key things that you really have to focus on are, number one, your people. You're only as good as your people. It's all about talent and teams. It's all about diverse talent and teams. So you're only as good as your people. You've got to identify and put in place the best people. The second thing that you need to do is, I'd say, you got to focus on really putting together objectives for the organization. So what are you going to try to accomplish with these people? And there, you've got to work with, the board of directors, if you're at that level, but the board of directors, your CEO, your peers, to understand what they're trying to accomplish from a business perspective. You've got to work with your team that are legal or subject matter experts that will tell you what are the best ways that maybe we can get there. And together, you got to meld those two together to create clear objectives for the organization. I've always been amused as I've gone through my career that if I ask somebody to do good work, probably at the end of the year, I'd rate them a B, because their definition of good work and mine clearly is different. If I ask somebody to do 10 things, I've been shocked. I get all 10. Plus, I usually get 2 more. So being clear on what you expect of the team is absolutely critical. Number 3, what you got to do, I would say, is help the team get there. So you become very much providing them the resources, providing them the ability to, frankly, get the job done. And then number 4, you've got to recognize and reward those that have got it done. They get promoted, they get compensated, and then also have the fortitude to make the changes for those who frankly, are not getting it done.
Mark, how did you continue to develop in leadership yourself throughout the years? Who helped you?
Well, back to the point, Charlie Russ was a great pointer. And then I read a lot. I would attend seminars and conferences. Frankly, had people that coached me along the way, both formal and informal. So mentoring and coaching. Spent time with other general counsels. I think there's real value in that. And so, frankly, you just continue to get learnings along the way from various people and from realization. A classic is I am a raging introvert. And so for me to be comfortable is to be in my office and maybe even close the door because I'm more comfortable where I'm sort of alone and thinking. And so how do I come across? I come across as cold. I come across as non-caring. I come across as somebody that doesn't interact well with the team. And so I had to find ways to overcome that because that was the feedback that I was getting. Classic, what I would do when I was Friday, I would stop at Safeway. I'd load up 2 trays of donuts and I'd take them into the lunchroom. I'd put the donuts out and the whole team would have those donuts. And you know what? All of a sudden, Mark's a nice, caring, good guy. Also, one of the things I did is I'd go down to the cafeteria, I'd get a cup of coffee, and I'd go for a walk. I could either go back to my office, which I did not allow myself to do. So I had to finish the coffee before I went to my office. I could either stand in the hall and drink the coffee all by myself, or I could go find people I had to talk to. So there are things you can do to overcome those various perceptions that people have and become a better leader. So listen. Get the input from people, accept the input even if you don't agree with it, and then modify your behavior as appropriate.
Mark, I so appreciate your embracing of self-awareness. You use the word self-realization. This is a gift for my listeners who think that the gift of leadership is something innate that you were born with. Rather, from your story, it's something that you had to press through, learn, adapt, and grow to be really good at it. This, I think, should give everyone hope and inspiration.
And believe me, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. You learn from your mistakes, you pick yourself up and off you go again. And there have been many a day where, I'd go home feeling that I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe it came out that way. But then you just pick up and go forward. And by pick up and go forward, back to the point earlier, it's all about the people you surround yourself with. Because if you have good people, they will tell you what to do. And so it's just absolutely critical to surround yourself with, very impressive people and very impressive, diverse people. Because if they all look like you, if they all have the same background as you, you're going to miss so much. And so I have always wanted my team to be diverse from a gender perspective, from a people of color perspective, and from all other diverse perspectives, whether it be LGBT, because all of those individuals are able to give me guidance. And boy, you just got to listen to what they say, listen, and then go forward.
Mark, thank you for bringing up diversity. You wrote a leadership piece for the ACC docket called Leadership Lessons. And you mentioned diverse teams are more productive and get better results. And then you said diversity is a noun, inclusion is the verb. Would you speak more on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, diversity is, I guess, 2 aspects to it. You could say there's both the actual numbers or who or what people are, and then, of course, the inclusion piece, which is getting the value of that. My belief is the value of diversity and inclusion really has 6 factors. And so, first of all, if you want to get the best talent, I'm, as you know, a huge believer in talent teams, you've got to go after everybody. I mean, a classic is what? 56 or 58% of undergrads now are women. 50% of the law school grads are women. And other diverse groups continue to be a big piece of the U.S. population. So if you want the best team, you can't go after all people who look like just you, or you'd be going after less than half the population. In the year 2042, whites are going to be a minority in this country, never to be reversed. So first of all, if you want the best talent, you've got to focus on diversity. Number 2, think about your clients. Your clients are diverse. And so if you want your clients to understand you, to feel comfortable working with you, and to think that you really understand their issues, your team has to be diverse. So those first 2 factors really go to what I would say sort of the numerics or the diverse state. But then You need to have more than that because you have to have an inclusive environment so you can get the value of that diversity. And so if you listen to the individuals, get their input, get their thoughts, you will have four more good factors. Number one, you'll make better decisions. Studies will show up, down, and sideways that you make better decisions when you get diverse input. As a matter of fact, there's an individual that sort of a study using mock juries, and he basically had non-diverse and diverse mock juries. And what was interesting is the diverse mock juries came up with more questions, came up with more ideas, and so it empirically proves that diverse teams actually make better decisions. Number four, I would say, is you frankly are more innovative and creative with diversity. If you read Walter Isaacson's The Innovators, it's the combination of the mathematician with the person that reads history that comes up with, frankly, the more innovative and creative ideas. So at the end of the day on that, you will just be getting better decisions, but also get much more innovation if you have a diverse team and listen to all that input. Also, the other one that is classic is that you will frankly get more productivity with a diverse and inclusive team. And so why is that? Just think about it. If you come to the office and you have to hide who you are, or you feel you have to accommodate to everybody else, you can't be your full self. I mean, how productive are you going to be in the office place? You're not going to be productive at all. So frankly, people are more productive. And so it's all this drive to number six. You just frankly get better results. And so my belief is that diverse and inclusive teams get better results. It's always worked for me. I ain't changing. And so I've had a great career, and this has been part of my success. And back to your question, diversity is the noun, inclusion is the verb. You need both because you need the numerics, but then you need to have an inclusive environment where you get the value and draw upon that diversity.
Hi, listeners. This is Chris Batts, legal recruiter and owner of The Lion Group. My team and I place legal and compliance talent around the United States and are known for our level of communication, speed, and strong track record. If you're an employer hiring your first attorney or first general counsel or adding talent to your corporate legal department or compliance team, we should talk. Also, if you're a corporate defense law partner or group wondering about your options for a lateral move, we should also talk. Every aspect of our process is confidential, fast, and thorough. Contact us by going to our website, findthelions.com, or you can text the word headhunter to the number 44222, and then complete the web form and we'll follow up with you shortly. Now back to the show. Mark, please share with my listeners what General Counsel look for when adding talent to their team.
Look for people that, frankly, especially in the in-house environment, first of all, that I would say are good thinkers, that have good judgment, and we can go off on a tangent on judgment, whether that can be taught or not, but have good judgment, that are creative, that are innovative. I do like people that are hardworking, but that doesn't mean butts in chairs. Be careful on that. That doesn't mean you have to be in the office 10, 12 hours a day. It means that you're thinking about your job and thinking about ways that you can always do things better. I like people that are team players. The person that wants to work hard, get great results, and wants to win the race, I love. But if you ever try to trip one of your team members, you're off the team. It's as simple as that. And I just don't accept that. So those are probably some of the key things that I'm looking for in people. I like people that are ambitious, that want to change the world, because I think there's so many ways by being innovative, you can really add a lot of value to the business. Business focus. It's incredibly valuable when you are in-house to understand your company's business, because then you can use your legal skills to advance the business objectives.
It sounds like you had also mentioned and highly recommended that in-house attorneys should really consider getting their MBAs. Can you speak to that?
I was a math major, undergrad, and I didn't know what a balance sheet was. I didn't know what an income statement was. I went to law school, started as a litigator, and frankly had no clue about business or how business people talk to one another. I found huge value getting an MBA at the University of Washington for several reasons. First of all, it gave me sort of the key things or key elements that business leaders talk about, whether it be income statements, balance sheets, or the way that businesses operate. So it gave me those skills. But also, I've always wondered, what else do you really pick up in business school that's different than law school? And it's interesting. I would say that in law school, we are taught to identify the issues or problems. In business school, you're taught to identify and advance the opportunity. And so to have it both in your pocket is incredibly valuable. I found as I sat around the leadership table, with the CEO and his or her leadership team, to the extent I'm able to communicate with them about business issues and understand their challenges and be one of their team, huge value.
Mark, I love the topic of how you try to train people to leave. Please speak on that.
Yes, and I think, in some of the things I've read, and I think it's now 16 people that have worked for me have moved on to become General Counsel. And I'm a little bit different on this than a lot of leaders. I believe that when I hire people, they really have three opportunities. And I tell them this during the interview. Number one, they're going to be incredibly successful and have more opportunities. Let's make it up at MassMutual. They'll advance in the law department or advance in the company. And by the way, a lot of the people who work for me in the law department ended up with other roles in the company too. So that's one opportunity. The other is that, frankly, they will have, back to my point, opportunities on the business side, that they will be viewed as such good leaders that they will end up being asked to do a role in the business. For example, Pia Flanagan, who worked for me, heading up really the corporate tax group and the corporate secretary group, now is the chief of staff to the CEO, Roger Crandall of MassMutual. And so she's moved out of the legal function to take that role. Dominic Blue, who I hired to head up the corporate function at the time, now is basically doing all the transformation work for MassMutual. So you have those opportunities outside law. And then the third one is, my belief is if you are doing such great work, other companies or other entities will say, can you do that for me? And when people leave leave working for me for a better job, I don't cry. I hold a party because, frankly, they may have been good. But if I have a team where people feel there is opportunities both within the company, but also better opportunities to be outside the company, they will want to work for me. So somebody may be good, but I may find somebody even better based upon my view that I also train people to leave.
Mark, let's talk a little bit about how you do the interview and hiring process. You mentioned in Leadership Lessons that you keep the interview process simple and fast. Please share on that.
Keep in mind during the interview process that interviewees are also considering whether they want to work for you. And so with that in mind, you want to show that you can make decisions. And so my view is there's no reason you ought to bring people back more than 2 times. And you ought to be able to make a decision pretty quickly on whether you want them to join the team or not. If you very quickly, after 2 meetings or less, are able to make a decision, you're sending a clear message that you want this person, that you can make decisions, and that is important to the individual. And also keep in mind that if you have too many interviewers, and by the way, you want your interviewers always to be diverse, because different people see different perspectives. So we always require that both we have a diverse slate, but also a diverse interviewers. You want to make sure that probably no more than 5 interviews. And I've gone to companies where I've probably interviewed with 10 people. And so, it becomes a mess because by the time you get too many people in the interview process, you're just going to be, into analysis paralysis. Mark,
you also mentioned, you talked about learning together is the best form of team building. Would you speak on that as well?
I believe, you can go out and play laser tag. You can go out and, go for drinks. Although it's fun to, after a team event to go out and have a social. But I believe, especially for lawyers who are generally inquisitive and like to learn, that learning together is really one of the best ways to team build. So what I would try to do is find sort of learning experiences that would have value to all the lawyers and all the paralegals and the whole department. So what would those be? A classic is legal writing, and it's not just legal writing. It's how to write an email and it's how to write a note to a CEO. You can get somebody like, we would have Brian Garner come in and teach the whole group. He's the guy who's editor of Black Dictionary. He does presentations. Teach the whole group on really how to better communicate and write. And it's a great experience to do it together. Another one that everybody can negotiate better, whether you're negotiating on buying a new car or whether you're negotiating on a contract or whether you're negotiating with another part of the company on who's going to get resources. So you all can learn negotiation skills. So we would brought in Professor Carver from George Washington, who would teach the whole organization. We'd practice together on negotiation. The other one that I really like doing is judgment. Because some people think judgment is innate and can't be taught. I do believe judgment can be practiced, and so we would work together on scenarios and try to exercise our judgment together, learning on how we could make better decisions. So I think that the team enjoys doing this together. They learn together. And at the end of the day, like I say, when it's all over, you can have refreshments and all chat about it. And it really is the best team building. And I think it's much better than playing laser tag.
Mark, you talk about certain types of people on your team, and there are those that come to the day to win and others come to just play. Would you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I would say, and it's funny, if we all look around us, you really do see that. Some people come in, frankly, to just, do the job and, try to punch the ticket and then go home. Other people, I would say, are always looking for what can be done better, where we can add value, and are coming up with ideas and thoughts totally outside their area of responsibility. And those are the people that are looking to win as compared to just play the game. That's why I so much believe in so much value input from individuals outside their area of expertise. It's why I think, as being the general counsel and sitting at the leadership team, you add incredible value because you often don't have any dog in the fight. And if, in fact, you have a team that's working together and listening to one another, you are getting all those different sort of inputs. So I truly believe whether you are remodeling your house and you're asking your painter for the ideas on where the furniture ought to be, or whether you are looking at potentially entering a new line of business and you're asking the CFO what he or she thinks, all those things really have incredible value, and you really want to draw upon them because it creates a winning environment. By the way, people like to win. People like to be winners. You just so much when you are getting great results and getting things done and being part of a winning team, people are happy and having fun together.
Mark, let's shift to compensation, promotion, and rewarding. And you talk about when people complain that there's something that might be more underlying as an issue, the statement of, you can't pay me enough for this job. Can you speak to that, please?
Well, first of all, my core belief on compensation is treat your people fairly. It is just awful if, in fact, somebody comes in and says, gee, I just got an offer from another company and I'm leaving because I'm not being compensated good enough. My view is you never ought to chase that person because bottom line, if you were treating them fairly, then they were compensated fairly. And so what you ought to do, as I said earlier, is shake their hand and wish them the very best. Often you will find, and I've been in charge of HR, that often HR departments will view their job in part is to be as cost efficient as possible and to, frankly, be cheap on compensation. I don't believe in that. I believe in treating people fairly, compensating them well, so that, frankly, they feel good about their job and feel good about their compensation. But to your question, when people come in and say, gee, I'm not being paid well enough, by the way, always listen because they may have data points that you don't have, and you may not be treating them fairly. But often they are telling you something else. They're basically saying, you can't pay me enough to do this job. And so you want to understand what that underlying issue is and then try to address that. Compensation, I think, again, I'm a true believer in really rewarding people and rewarding people really handsomely, because if you're asking people to do a lot, you got to reward them, and you also got to give them the tools to do a lot. One of the other ones you often see is people will try to go cheap on technology or go cheap at our conversation earlier on education. My belief is that if you're asking people to do a lot, you never skimp on technology, you never skimp on training or education, and you never skimp on compensation.
Mark, you've interacted with lots of boards. It's safe to say that you've been on a board or two. I've got a couple questions. One being, how can attorneys serve on more boards? Number two, what's your advice for in-house counsel as they relate to boards inside their company?
First of all, you will generally find, not all the time, that it's hard as a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, to be on a board. Generally, I'd say boards, and you can look at the, like Spencer Stewart does a study every year, a board composition. Generally, not that many lawyers on boards, unless the lawyer had a different skill set. For example, Mark Roscoe was on our board at MassMutual. He was former governor and the state attorney for Montana. But he really was, at the end of the day, he was somebody that was involved in public policy issues. And likewise, we had Patricia Diaz-Dennis, who is a former one of the head at the Department of Labor, one of the commissioners there. But so I think as a lawyer, if you want to be on a board, you probably have to be more expansive than just have a legal role. And so I think that's something that you ought to focus on if, in fact, you want to be on boards. As far as interacting with boards, I think at the end of the day, you want to really develop relationships of trust and respect with your board. So you don't want, back to me being an introvert, you don't want to be just doing the legal work, but you want to be communicating with the board. You want to be spending time with the board. You want to understand their concerns. I would go out, for example, each chair of the various committees, before a board meeting, we would have pre-meetings, and often I'd even go out to where the board member was to sit down live with them to go through their thoughts about the materials, their thoughts about what we could do better from a governance perspective. So spend time with your board members. Don't just be reactive, but spend time with them. And to the extent they are active CEOs or active executives, get to know their general counsels because, what a great thing. One of your classic was one of our board members was the chair and CEO of PPG. And I spent time with the general counsel there. And so I could find exactly what Ray LaBeouf liked and disliked about how he got his board materials. And what a good thing. So I think you want to spend time understanding your board members, understanding their concerns, spending time with them, and always getting their input on ways you can do things better.
Mark, referring back to leadership lessons, you mentioned the best path to personal success is giving, not taking. Would you provide some practical examples of how people can be better givers?
First of all, look at how you spend your time. And are you spending your time, frankly, just doing legal work, which is good, but are you spending time where you're actually adding value to other individuals and helping them grow and develop? By the way, some of my best ideas I get from the people I mentor. Back to accepting ideas everywhere. I would say you want to be mentoring individuals. You want to be sponsoring individuals. You want to be writing, as I do, for other people. By the way, one of the best ways to learn is to write. Because at the end of the day, if you're telling other people you ought to do it this way, you probably ought to know how to do it. And also, I often find when I'm doing this, I realize I'm not doing that myself, even though I'm telling everyone else to do it. So then I got to go do it. So I think that to whether it's teaching other people as a speaker, as a writer, as a mentor, as a sponsor, adds tremendous value to you personally. And at the end of the day, what's so interesting is keep in mind that all the great results belong to the team. All the bad results belong to you. And people aren't stupid. They know that if you've put together a great team and that you're recognizing the team got this great result, that you are clearly a significant part of it. So giving to the team, giving all the recognition to them, giving all the great results to them as far as publicly, at the end of the day, first of all, is the right thing to do, but also makes it better for you.
Mark, what's your advice, particularly for in-house attorneys who feel they're stuck or it's a very flat organization and they're wanting to continue in their career?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think there are sort of three ways to look. You can always progress within your legal department. The other is, I would say, there are often opportunities on the business side. How do you get those opportunities? First of all, you've got to be a good partner with your business leaders. And so they realize that you are more than a lawyer. I love it when I get a call, and this would happen. You get called into one of the executives' office and they say, Mark, I got this legal issue, and I need your help. And so it goes through the facts, and then they tell me all about it. I'd say, in my own mind, you got an issue, but it ain't a legal issue. But they're asking me for my help because I'm a good thinker and a good problem solver. So if, in fact, you get that reputation, you will have opportunities in the business. And then the third is that outside the business, look at other opportunities. I'm a true believer. You always ought to sort of be looking, see what's out there for a couple of reasons. Number one, you might find something that's better that you want to do, and off you go to, as I say, train people to leave. They leave for another better opportunity. The other thing is, as you look around for what's out there, you know what? You may say, what I got now, I may not like that much, but it's a lot better what's out there right now. So I think those are the three areas to think about. And so the other two you really want to rev up. Back to the point earlier, get out there, whether you're speaking, whether you're writing, whether you're communicating with other general counsels, whether you're communicating with other people in bar events, whether you're communicating with people in other business events. Get out. Don't just go to the office, or now we're not going to the office, but don't just work with your entity and not get out in the broader sort of legal or business community, because that's where opportunities will just pop up because people will know you and respect you.
Mark, I want to pivot up to about 50,000 feet. You've seen lots of changes in the business of law. I'd like your perspective as a counselor to General Counsel on the emergence of new legal service providers. How is that affecting General Counsel, in your opinion?
I would say it's an area of opportunity. We always ought to be looking at how we can do things more efficiently and effectively. And frankly, what used to be the value of a lawyer or an in-house lawyer has changed dramatically over the sort of short time period, last 5, 10, 15 years. When I started out practicing law, one of the values I had was, frankly, knowledge. That I carried around all these form files that I had developed through my various activities. And so I had all this knowledge that I carried in my pocket that I added value. Now knowledge is almost free to everybody. And so what skills do lawyers bring anymore? Because they can't say, gee, I wrote a brief like that 2 months ago, and then I can write another one for you. And so it's a whole change of sort of skill set where I would say that the key knowledge is not as important. So the IQ isn't as important as maybe the EQ or the emotional intelligence, where you can communicate with people, you can understand their issues, and you can work with them. So what do lawyers really bring anymore? They bring judgment. They bring that emotional intelligence. They bring that teamwork together. And then how do they best do it from an in-house perspective? And I don't care if a lawyer is doing the function. I don't care if a paraprofessional is doing the function. I don't care if a contract specialist is doing the function. I don't care if a computer is doing the function. Because at the end of the day, it actually rises the job that we all have to where we add the greatest value, which I would say is around sort of that teamwork with the business and also the good judgment we bring on decision making.
Mark, would you name any specific outside legal service providers that have caught your attention?
There aren't any sort of specific names that jump to mind because there's so many out there. And I would say there are various niches. What I do find really interesting now is the potential use of artificial intelligence in the contracting space, where frankly, you can review contracts and even write contracts and they get better and better through artificial intelligence. I find that really interesting. I do find that some of the work that can be done by the Uberization of law, where you are reaching out and using people as needed as compared to staffing up all the time. I think that's a dramatic change, and there's several sort of those firms out there that are doing that. We even tried for a while, although it wasn't all that successful, to outsource some of our work to India. So we would have people do some of the legal research for us in India because it's a common law area. And so I think there are various areas where pockets of sort of course, obviously, when you're doing big document reviews and you're having computers basically analyze for keywords, there are various areas that are now being outsourced, which makes, like I say, the job of the in-house attorney much more exciting, because not only are you providing the legal services to your client, but you're also trying to think about what is the best way to do it.
Mark, you've mentioned quite a bit about leading your in-house team, but I know most general counsel have an external team called a law firm, some kind of outside counsel. What advice would you give other general counsel and lessons you've learned from managing your external team?
Well, first of all, I'm a true believer you need both. And so I would say that the in-house role has gone through sort of three evolutions. If you go back into the 20s even, you would see maybe one general counsel. That might have been the corporate secretary too. And basically everything was outsourced. And so that was sort of the way law was practiced in the big law firms started to grow and develop. Then the next phase was sort of the in-house group said, hey, we're spending a lot of money on this. And they created in-house law firms. And I was a part of one of those when I first was really at US West, where we tried to offer almost all legal services to our clients as compared to using law firms. And I would say the third phase, which I believe we're still in and hopefully we'll stay in, is where you draw upon the skills of both in-house attorneys and the skills and expertise of outside attorneys. In-house attorneys know their company's business, know their company's strategy, know what they're trying to accomplish. And so that's a huge skill set that the in-house attorneys have. External attorneys have multiple clients doing certain legal work or certain legal areas, whether it's dealing with 409A or whether it's dealing with a particular type of M&A transaction. And they're not doing it for just one client, but they have a perspective across multiple clients. So they have better expertise at that technical issues. How do you put the two groups together is a skill set that you need to have as an in-house attorney, because you alone aren't going to be able to do it all. Outside counsel can't do it all. You've got to do it very much as a team approach. So I'm a huge believer in putting a team together of in-house attorneys and outside attorneys that work together to get the best results. And you want to always do it in a team perspective. So don't turn the matter over to the outside attorney with a bow on it and expect it to just come back with another bow on it. You've got to be working together as a team where you're adding value from the in-house perspective and the outside attorneys are adding their value from an outside perspective. By the way, that's one of the it's one of the important skill sets of an in-house attorney is to be able to identify what outside attorneys you need, when you need them, and under what sort of arrangements, whether it be billing arrangements or other arrangements, you retain them.
So, Mark, I understand you're married and you've been married for 30 years. Is that correct?
Married for 30 years as of last week, and a very lucky guy. I got married late in life, as did my wife, and so only marriage for both of us, and no children. And we've wandered both corporate America, we've wandered the country together, and now are sort of decided that we want to live our life in Vail, Colorado. And so going through a remodel there, but we have a condo there right now, and that's going to be our primary residence.
That's wonderful. Are you both retired, I assume?
Yes, we are. Although she was a bookkeeper when I first met her in Seattle, Washington, and working for a law firm. And then she evolved to become the CEO of the home. And so she basically ran the home front, and I ran the I guess, be the corporate front. And her job was just as important, if not more important than mine, because if she wasn't doing what she was doing, I couldn't be doing what I was doing. And if I wasn't doing what I was doing, she couldn't be doing what she was doing. So back to my point earlier, it's very much a team. And together, it's been our success, not my success.
Yeah, it sounds like an excellent team. I know you had mentioned that picking your spouse is a very, very important decision to make. Would you speak to that?
Probably one of the most important decisions that we make, maybe the most important decision we make. And so, and by the way, obviously, as you hire people, you can't be asking any of these personal questions, or you can't be, talking about spouses. But I do think that an individual that shows stability on the home front, probably has good judgment. Somebody that can't be making very good decisions there, you sort of scratch your head a little bit, because it is probably about the most important decision we make.
Mark, would you share with my readers recommended books or material that you think would be useful for them?
Yeah, what's interesting in that is I think probably most executives, sort of bang around the business books. And it's all the business book, of du jour. And if you think about it, often these books are being written by people that frankly have never done it. They're telling you how to do it, but they've never done it. And you almost ought to be scratching your head on that one. At least the business books that are written by Jack Welch or somebody else that have actually done it, at least you're getting that perspective. So I read those books because you got to read Good to Great. You got to read how Google works and those type of books. I mean, you got to do that. But I think, frankly, the best way to learn leadership is to learn it from those who have done it. So I'm a huge believer in histories and biographies, and back to history. Santiago said, those that do not study history are doomed to repeat it. So I think there's huge value in really studying history and biographies, because whether it was a bad person, whether it was Hitler, whether it was Mao, whether it was Stalin, or whether it was a good person, Martin Luther King, or whether it was Franklin Roosevelt, you frankly can learn from all of them. Because I'm a true believer, you can learn from the good people and what they've done, and you're also learn from the bad people and things that you never should do. And so I spend a lot of time with biographies and histories.
Last question, Mark, and it's a two-part question. So the first question is, what are your superpowers?
Superpowers. I'd say, I don't know if they're superpowers, but I'd say I've been fortunate to surround myself with individuals that have made me and made the team and made the organization incredibly successful. So I guess it's back to the point earlier. It's all about people and teams. And I've been fortunate, or maybe it is one of my skill sets, to surround myself with really good people. Believe me, I'm not the smartest guy in the block. I really am not. And so back to the point earlier, you want to be a good leader. You can learn how to be a good leader. You can surround yourself with good people. Frankly, if you're the smartest person in the room, you got a weak team. And so at the end of the day, it's all about the people.
Mark, the second part of the question, and this can be serious or even more playful, what is your kryptonite?
Boy, I don't even know. Kryptonite. So I guess that's the one that I reach out to and really it energizes me. Is that sort of what you're thinking?
More like a guilty pleasure you could also share.
Guilty pleasure. It's probably not guilty pleasure, but I just love to be outside and doing things. Started the morning today digging out the cover over the septic tank, and that excited me at all. I like to, and by the way, before I got to it, I had to go through the deck, which meant I had to get the power tools out and go through wood. So I got to fix the deck after I finish talking to you. So my guilty pleasures probably are just being outside. It could be exercising, working out, or working with my hands, doing things that get me sort of thinking about issues other than sort of law. But back to my point earlier, often when I'm out there on the bike, I'm still thinking about what we can do better for the company.
Mark, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for your time today.
Great. I enjoyed it. And again, I hope that any of your listeners will feel free to reach out to me, ask for my thoughts, ask for my advice, comments. As I said, that's what I'm doing at Perkins Coie now. And I really like to work with general counsels and their leadership team. And I hope I have an opportunity to work with some of your listeners.
Thank you, everyone who listened to this episode of the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. If you haven't already, please take a moment and subscribe. Also, we would love your feedback. You can leave feedback in 3 easy ways. You can go to the blog post on our website. You can click Give Feedback link in the show notes on your device. And then thirdly, you can text the phrase LFL podcast to the number 44222. That's LFL PODCAST. And thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Law Firm Leadership Podcast. This podcast is for education purposes only. This content cannot be used for commercial use without written permission from the Lion Group. If you like this podcast, leave a review on iTunes.